Hi, I made this video for anybody who is interested in visiting or buying Rancho La Escondida in Chiapas, Mexico. Because the owner, Robin Shields, he refuses to disclose negative things about his place. In January 2013, I saw his ad and YouTube video, and I was interested because in the video he talks about how quiet it is, and because I'm very noise sensitive, I can't take any noise. I was interested in it, and so I emailed him some questions like can you hear dogs barking from the neighbors or other noises, and I asked him about the hiking because I was concerned that the locals are hostile, that you cannot freely hike there, and I was asking about the property rights, and all of my questions he never answered directly. Instead he made vague statements like see my blog, or he said he doesn't like noise either, and so on, so I never knew what to think exactly, but it sounded like it was likely that it would be quiet. And then at the same time I also had emailed somebody in Costa Rica about their ranch and asked them the same question. They immediately openly told me how it is, and in this way they don't waste their time and I don't waste mine. So I drove down there, and it took me 7 days of driving all day, and I wasted 1.5 days because I had asked Robin which route to take, through Acapulco or through Mexico City. I asked him which one would be quicker, and because he didn't answer me, I took the wrong one. And so I wasted 1.5 days going through Puerto Vallarta, which was all potholes and stuff. And then when I got at his place, I saw what it really was like, and then he answered my questions. And it was all negative. For one thing, you could hear the neighbors' dogs barking freely, and second, he told me, no, you cannot take hikes around here. You have to be accompanied by a local because it's unsafe. And the third question is, no, the property rights are not secure. And I said, why didn't you tell me this before I came? I spent all this time, and I spent thousands of dollars coming here, and now I have to drive all the way back for nothing, just because he didn't answer my questions. And then he said, I don't answer questions on the internet. Why? Okay. And for instance, just this one question about which route to take would have taken him 1 minute to answer, and he didn't bother. And so he showed me the ranch, and then he asked if I'm still interested. I mean, how could I be? For one thing, there was the noise. The only place at this whole ranch that is quiet is where he took the YouTube video. Okay, here is a map of his place. You come from here. There is a village about 2 miles away. This is his ranch. There is a village 2 miles away, and then another 2 miles is the highway. So you come from here, okay? And here is the neighbors with dogs. And here is more neighbors with dogs. Everybody has dogs because of the safety situation. And here is another village, okay? So when they want to go to town, they come through here. So there is some traffic, and the cabin is right next to the dirt road, okay? And the dogs are right next to the cabin. His dogs, which are extremely noisy. He actually has a dog breeding operation where he breeds Great Danes, the biggest and noisiest, nastiest dogs I've ever seen in my life. And in my opinion, that is totally incompatible with offering an eco-ranch. An eco-ranch, you expect something that's quiet, but it's so noisy, it's unbelievable. Okay, so the topography of this property is here. There's a flat area here, which is the same with the neighboring properties, and so the neighbors are actually all not that far away, and then there is a pretty steep hill that goes up through the forest. There's no road up there, only a footpath. And here is the top of that hill. And only once you get over the top, this little piece there, that's where he took the YouTube video, that is quiet. Then, he said, well, you could always build a house up there, build a road through the forest, which would be tough because during the rainy season, with the hill there, it could wash out and so on, But then I said, you should have told me that, and then it would be up to me whether I still want to come. So after that, he asked me, well, do you still want to buy it? In other problems where that the property rights are not secure, he showed me several places where the property of Americans had been taken over by the local Indians, which call themselves Zapatistas. They feel it's their land because it had originally been stolen from them by the Spaniards. And for instance, he has been there 7 years, and it's been a constant struggle. One time a bunch of locals showed up with machetes at his land and tried to run him off. And he said, you'll have to kill me, I won't leave, and so, but then they harassed him. For instance, for 2 years they cut off his water supply, and he had no water, and because of the dry season you need water. And then even though he had a legal right to it, and then they filed 6 or 7 times, they filed frivolous lawsuits against him, accusing him of being an unstable person and whatnot. And each time he had to go to the court and beg for mercy and pay the bribe at the judge, a substantial bribe, to get rid of the lawsuits. And one time the non-local Mexicans, which are his neighbors, they're not the Indians, but they're Mexicans, they poisoned all his animals, and they died a slow, agonizing death. And none of this he disclosed before, only after I got there. And so after that he asked me, well, do you want to buy it? Of course not. I mean, who would want to buy it after that, and then he said, well, then you owe me money because you spent here last night. It's $8 a night. And then I said, I just spent thousands of dollars and the week of my life in a miserable condition, driving, nothing but driving. And now you want me to pay you after misleading me about how your property is and not answering my questions? And I disclose to you freely what my requirements are, what I need. And you misled me into believing this was a quiet place that would meet my needs. You constantly encourage me to come after disclosing what I need, and now you want money from me. It's just unbelievable. And then he flew into a rage, extremely angry. He said, get off my property. So imagine that. That's the kind of guy he is. He doesn't care what suffering you go through because of him. All he cares is what he calls business, which means money, not personal relationships. And so I had no other choice. I was totally a nervous wreck from all the driving. I had no place to go. So I gave him $16 for 2 nights, and I was going to stay 1 day there. The next day it was noisy on and off because his dogs barked on and off. And also he has workers there which make firewood with power tools, so that wasn't quiet either. And so I went off hiking despite of what he said, and I got lost a couple of times because the forest looks the same everywhere. It's hard to find any orientation, and it's not really that interesting. And by the way, of the photos he has on his ad, the most beautiful photos are not from his property, and I don't know where they are from. Anytime there is a lake or a pond, it's not from his property, and that's just another deception, I feel. And then what happened is from 5 p.m. that next day until 10 p.m. his dogs, which are extremely loud, were barking continuously, and the neighbors' dogs too. And finally at 10 p.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I was a nervous wreck. Plus I wouldn't be able to sleep with all the noise. And so I went to him and said, with this constant noise, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. And he said, okay, the door is open. You know, every normal, decent human being would have said, gosh, I'm so sorry, I will calm them down, I'll make them stop, or at least, if you couldn't do that, I'll give you your money back for the night you haven't spent here, and because I haven't provided a suitable environment for camping. Okay? But no, he already had my money, he didn't offer a refund. Just leave at 10 p.m. at night. I had no place to go. And you're not supposed to drive in Mexico at night. So I left with the hope of finding some place where I could pull off the road and sleep. And Chiapas is a very steeply mountainous area. And so I ended up driving until 4 a.m. in the morning. It was just a total nightmare. Until I finally could sleep a little bit, because at 6 a.m. it already gets noisy again, because there's no traffic everywhere, even on dirt roads in Mexico. And because they don't have public land like BLM or National Forest, it's all private, and so you can't really pull off and be quiet. And so I ended up driving back, it took me another 6 days. It was just a nightmare, because every night to find a quiet place was so hard. And because of my noise sensitivity, Mexico is so noisy. And so I got back, having spent $1,600 in cash just for gas and the highway tolls. Because the only roads worth driving for long distance are the ones that cost money, and they are extremely expensive. You spend more money on highway tolls than you spend on gas. And the gas costs about the same as in Arizona, so you spend really twice as much, and the roads are not as good. It's rarely that the surface is smooth. It's usually bumpy, because they don't build the roads good enough. And those big trucks, they ruin the roads in just a few years, and then they have to constantly repair them. So what I want to say is, what he doesn't disclose, and what he should, if he was a decent human being, before people drive all the distance, is number one, the incredible noise from his own dogs. And a dog breeding operation is not compatible with an eco ranch. And the neighbors' dogs, and that you can't take freely hikes there, and it's not safe. And the property rights aren't guaranteed, because the Indians, they consider this as their reservation or something, and they feel you don't belong there as a foreigner. And their population is multiplying, because the women, they get pregnant as early as 12 years old, and then they don't stop, And so they need more land, and naturally the foreigners are the target. They constantly harass them and try to run them off. And I saw several places where they did that without compensation. They took over the land of the foreigners. And the climate is nice, okay. That's the only good thing. Plus the prices are cheap for food and for medical care, extremely low prices. But what you have, the worst thing, what you have to put up with is, as far as driving is concerned, is the speed bumps that are everywhere throughout every village. Sometimes every 10 yards there is another speed bump, and each time you have to brake sharply, slow down to 8 miles an hour. And so it wears out your brakes, you waste a lot of gas and time and patience. And if you are behind a big truck with that many axles, it's extremely slow. And the reason they have them is because the Mexicans, they drive like maniacs, and so the innocent who don't drive like that get punished with the guilty. And driving in Mexico is just the worst frustration like that. And the only places that don't have speed bumps, because they don't go through the towns, is the freeways that cost a lot of money. His place is okay, you know, he advertises it for camping, or you can rent a cabin that's right next to the dirt road, and right next to the dogs, or you can buy his place. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Now, the rest of the video, I just want to talk about Mexico in general. Before I started, I was a little bit anxious because of all the warnings, and but the more time I spent there, the more relaxed I got, because during the entire time, even though I camped by myself on a side of a dirt road every single night except for one, I never was bothered by anybody, and I never saw any criminals, but I saw lots of soldiers and police on the road who want to prevent any criminal activity. So the safety wasn't an issue with me at all. And but as I said, the only roads that are worth driving for long distance are the toll roads. And it's frustrating how much time you lose to stop at each toll booth, and often you have to wait like 5 to 10 minutes until you're in line to pay. And then there is military checkpoints where you have to wait in line on the freeway. Okay, it's just so frustrating how much time you lose always stopping and waiting on the freeway. And so after coming back to the United States, it's just such a higher standard of living. There's not all these constant frustrations, and you can drive, and it's a smooth pavement. So this is all. Any questions, email me. Bye.